Hi, it's Gene, retired in Mexico, and I'm here with Professor Gumbo from Phoenix, Arizona, my special guest. Welcome to the channel, Jim. I'm really enjoying these, and today we're going to count down our 10 favorite albums from 1973. We've been taking turns going first. Um, Professor's going to go first, but real quick, a couple of notes. One is this is just our opinion. So don't, I did say 73, right? So we're doing 1973, and this is just our opinion. These are our favorite albums. But I want to give a little context. Also, just to let you know, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Patreon, I'm on Facebook. So any engagement with the channel is always appreciated. 1973, U.S. involvement in Vietnam ends. So Vietnam was a big deal. It was called the Paris Peace Accords, and we officially got out of Vietnam. However, there were troubles in Ireland, so Ireland became kind of a bad place to be. The battles between the Protestants and Catholics. Ferdinand Marcos became president of the Philippines. We found out about the Nixon tapes in the press, and that was a big deal. That we found out the president had recorded his conversations. Probably one of the biggest stories was OPEC oil embargo. It triggered the energy crisis, and by the way, it not only caused an energy crisis, but there were some albums in 1973 that didn't do very well because they had trouble manufacturing enough vinyl LPs, which require petroleum. So there were some distribution problems that year, and some albums didn't take off like they should have because people went to the store and the album was unavailable. The vice president of the United States resigned. His name was Spiro Agnew. The World Trade Center was dedicated. Yeah, Skylab launch. So that was really kind of the first space station, if you will. So space was changing that year. In sports, it was actually a pretty big year for sports. The Miami Dolphins finished 17 and 0, and that is still the only perfect season in NFL history. So Dan Marino and all those guys on the Miami Dolphins, a lot of people were talking about that. In tennis, this is it's really hard to believe this happened, but Billie Jean King defeated Bobby Riggs in a tennis match that was dubbed the Battle of the Sexes, when Bobby Riggs said he could beat any woman. So that was really a big deal back in 73. Everybody was talking about it, even if they didn't follow sports. The Beatles released their Red and Blue albums. That was 62 to 66 and 67 to 70. Those were huge sellers. In music, we had some deaths. Jim Croce died in a plane crash. Noel Coward, if you don't, you might not know who he was, but he was a pretty big name in old style music, and he died. Graham Parsons died of a drug overdose, and Sister Rosetta Tharpe died. She's been credited with really revolutionizing the guitar. And maybe most importantly, you probably didn't know this, Jim. Lou Reed was bitten on the buttocks by a fan in Buffalo, New York. Okay, just wanted to get that in there. And the top films included The Exorcist, The Sting, American Graffiti, Last Tango in Paris, and worldwide, the biggest film was Enter the Dragon, which was Bruce Lee's final film before he died. So just a little context for the year. And so we'll go ahead and get started on this. And starting for 73 now is going to be Professor Gumbo.
All right. Well, this was the first album I got, his second album, but the first album I got by a man who was to become one of my favorite artists to this day. And when I got into him outside of Phoenix and LA and New Jersey, nobody knew who he was. Okay. But Katie KB played his second album, Bruce Springsteen's The Wild, the Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle, regularly. And I would be hearing these tracks. And one time I went home for lunch and they were playing the song that I really, really liked. And it was Incident on 57th Street. And so I turned on my tape recorder and I got some of it recorded and um, played it for Cindy, liked it too. And so I wound up getting the album. And to this day, I mean, to me, this was a quantum leap over his first album, which was good, but this was Springsteen's first classic. It's the first album that was, I mean, you have to have by Springsteen. Um, Production wise, a little thin, but man, the singing. Uh, he was still showing his Van Morrison influence to a great degree. The title track was basically an homage to Wild Night, but um, but this was when Springsteen was making a name for himself as a live performer. And these songs, they tend to stretch out, they tend to be convoluted, his arrangements. What you've got is you put Van Morrison and Bob Dylan into a shaker, throw a little early Tom Waits into there, and then and then pour it out, and this is what you get. So my favorite songs from there are uh, 4th of July, Asbury Park, Sandy, um, which, just it's a great ballad about um, uh, the character trying to make it with this girl and break up with her at the same time. He doesn't know, if he should leave or if he should, but it's so great. But it has the great line um, that about being on the um, the tilt-a-whirl. I got on it last night and my shirt got caught and it kept me spinning. Didn't think I'd ever get off. Um, and and then oh, Sandy, the angels lost their desire for us, the Hells Angels. Springsteen was kind of putting on a faux biker thing at the time. So that's one of them. The next song that I love so much is it's the one that follows that incident on 52nd Street. And just like the two David Bowie songs we discussed in the last video, going right together. But this was Rosalita Come Out Tonight, one of the best rockers Bruce has ever done. And, it just, uh, I love when he sings, well, I know your mama, she don't like me because I play in a rock and roll band. And I know your daddy, he don't dig me, but he never did understand. Your papa lowered the boom. He locked you in your room. I'm coming to lend a hand. I'm coming to liberate you, confiscate you. I want to be your man. One day we'll look back on this and it will all seem funny. But now you're sad, your mama's mad, and your papa says he knows that I don't have any money. And it goes in, the E Street Band, the early incarnation of the E Street Band was great on this album. So why is this album not higher? Only because there's 9 that are better, in my opinion. Okay.
Hmm.
But I still love this album.
Yeah, I was listening to that the other day, and so on Rosalita, I love those kind of gang vocals by the
Mm-hmm.
band because you don't always get to hear Clarence and the guys singing like that. And on Sandy, it on that song Sandy, he says that that waitress doesn't want me anymore. She's not interested in it anymore, but I'll love you forever. It's
And
such a conflicting song.
the way he says forever, Sandy, I promise I'll love you forever. He hesitates, like forever. No, what am I committing to here?
It's such a conflicted song. So I like your little analysis of it. Number 10 for me, I think my surprises are going to be here in the 10, 9, 8 slot. And then my list is going to get progressively more predictable and start to merge with some of the other critical websites. But number 10 is a respected album. And what it is, it's comedy blended with serious music chops, a la Frank Zappa. But it's not Frank Zappa. It's the band Gong. And
Mm-hmm.
I love the first album in the Flying Teapot series. These guys are serious musicians, and I'm a sucker for this light, funny, hilarious lyrics combined with serious jazz rock chops. These guys are no joke musically, but lyrically, they're funny as hell. And so they've got this whole fabricated world of, yeah, the flying teapot has to do with, was it Bertrand Russell or somebody that talked about the flying teapot? And anyway, it's just, they're kind of a French English conglomeration. Um, I, I just absolutely love these jazz pieces, and you've got people like Dieter. I can never say his name.
Didier,
Blundito.
Didier Mullerby.
Yeah, what a great sax and flute player he is. The drummer is great. Yeah, there's just great playing on here. And I love this trilogy, this Flying Teapot trilogy, which was then Angel's Egg and You. And they were all released in a 2 year period. My songs, the two songs I'm picking for our Spotify playlist, are the title track, Flying Teapot, and Zero the Hero and the Witch's Spell. This has
Oh,
got
yeah.
some great playing on it. Your turn.
Fantastic. All right. My number nine. Good. I was talking to Gene about how this year, both 72, 73 is when prog began really stretching out. And what we've got here is a song that really polarized fans of Yes. I love the album. I've always loved the album. It is Tales from Topographic Oceans. Lyrically written almost entirely by John Anderson and Steve Howe, based on some East Indian, uh, scriptures, but it's also just totally stoner rock, and it's beautiful. And every time I would read somebody who's saying that it was lacking in melody, I just want to slap them because there's so many melodies. That's the thing. It moves from one melody to the other, but it's entirely melodic. And it's what it was. It was a two-record set. And I mean, it's like, yes, I mean, Jethro Tull had made Thick as a Brick with two sides, all the same song. Well, yes, did Tales from Topographic Oceans, four sides, each one an interrelated song. Okay. And to me, the best one is still the first one, The Revealing Science of God, um, with John Anderson singing at the beginning, dawn of light lying between the silent and souled sources, chased amid fusion of wonder, in moments hardly seen, forgotten, colored of chance dancing leaves, cast spells of challenge, amused but real in thought, reflect from the sea whole. And yeah, um,
Amazing. They're
and then
amazing.
and the music just goes on, and every one of them. This was the yes, Bill Bruford wasn't on it, but it's the classic Yes lineup. Steve Howe on guitars, Rick Wakeman on amazing keyboards, um, Alan White, who had played with several of the Beatles, including the Plastic Ono Band, and with John Lennon, and he was on George Harrison's "All Things Must Pass," um, and he wasn't. a jazz drummer like Bruford. But God, he was a good drummer. And he was forced to learn all of the Yes catalog before this album in like a week because they went on tour. And if you listen to Yes songs, you hear what a great job he does. He plays differently than Bill Bruford. His touch isn't as light, it's more rock, but it's prog rock. So the my favorite song here, like I said, is the revealing science of God from and it's got so many. I mean, it's got more melodies than you can shake a stick at.
It's great. And I love, speaking of Alan White, I absolutely love that percussion solo on side four. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, absolutely. Uh-huh.
It's
I
really
remember going.
creative.
I remember going to your house, and I've mentioned this. How Gene and I would play albums that we figured the other one hadn't heard and make us guess. And Gene played and this really embarrassed me because I thought it was a girl singing. It's on the Alan White solo album. He had John Anderson sing on a song, and he
Oh,
played me that, and I thought it was a girl, and I was trying to guess who it was, but yeah.
number nine for me, which you now know how much I like this artist. But number nine for me, proto punk, I'm going with Iggy and the Stooges, Raw Power. Um, yeah, I mean, it used to be, I was always fascinated by the cover. Before I ever heard Iggy Pop, had ever listened to anything by him, that cover is so iconic of him with no shirt on and a microphone. I said, who is that? But what they've done is this really poorly recorded album, which I guess was mixed down to one track, and so they've never been able to properly remaster it. But they have improved it sonically over the years, and it's quite listenable now. I've been listening to this for a long time, and it still sounds dangerous to me. Yeah, even in 2025, it still kind of scares me. And the tracks I'm going with are Search and Destroy. Um, I love you know, I love the lyrics to this. I'm a street walking cheetah with a handful of napalm, and I'm the world's. I made an Iggy Pop anthology one time, and I called it The World's Forgotten Boy, which I thought was a great title for. I made a four CD collection of different Iggy tracks, a lot of one-offs, and I just love that The World's Forgotten Boy. And then although I do like the song Your Pretty Face Is Going to Hell, that's one of my favorite tracks. Pretty misogynist title, but I'm going to go with Search and Destroy and Raw Power, the title track. So that's my number nine, Raw Power.
And that shitty production was by David Bowie, right?
Well, Bowie mixed it like in 2 days. They called him in and he did a hatchet job on it. But Iggy actually produced it and he did a
Oh,
terrible job.
okay. So who damaged it worse, Iggy or David?
I like both mixes. Iggy really turned up the guitars, and so there's a lot of talk among audiophiles about compression. So compression is making a album loud at low volume, and the original Bowie mix, you have to turn the volume up. So I think it depends on your taste. Some people like compression, some people don't. But the Iggy mix is highly compressed, and James Williamson's guitars are way up in the mix. But I go back and forth. I like both mixes.
Okay, so my number eight, The Who, Quadrophenia. God, this is such a good album. Pete Townsend was had ambition. There's no denying that. I mean, from early on in the Who, when he did a quick one while he's away, and then Tommy. but he out Tommy Tommy with Quadrophenia. He created a concept of a mod. Those were the teenage boys who listened to R&B and listened to the Who. A mod boy named Jimmy, and he gets into fights. He rides motorbikes. He masturbates, and he does all of these things sometimes simultaneously. And uh, and he has four sides to his personality. Each one of them is one of the members of the Who. The tough, rocking boy, Roger Daltrey. The kind of weird, twisted guy, John Entwistle. The crazy guy, Keith Moon. And then Pete Townsend, who is the romantic who wants to pull them all together. And so he's a quadrophenic, not a schizophrenic, a quadrophenic. And of course, quadraphonic was kind of the gimmick of the year around then. But each there's a theme for each one of the members, and it's just really it's a two record set. Of course, two record sets were de rigueur for concept albums at the time. um, and you hear each one of the themes at the beginning, um, and then it goes into a great rocker, um, the real me. But I'm skipping over that one and going to go with another great rocker, which is the punk meets the Godfather. And which does a nod to my generation. And then the closing track, which is Pete's theme, um, the sea, love, rain or me, which probably has possibly Daltrey's greatest power vocal, even compared to Won't Get Fooled Again. It's just really a great song. And it ends the album so well. It starts with some beautiful piano by Nicky Hopkins, and you hear waves going. And does he drown himself? No, he just goes out, looks at the sea for a while, and then he walks away from it. Which is really cool. So Quadrophenia, the songs, The Punk Meets the Godfather, and uh, Love, Rain or Me.
Wow. Yeah, great picks. Those are fantastic songs. Number eight for me is a band that actually put out two albums this year, and that's the Wailers. The Wailers, as in Bob Marley and. So they're pretty close for me. The first and second albums are pretty close. But I'm going to go with the debut, Catch a Fire. Sounds great. And yeah, they were stranded in England and they did some demos there, though I was surprised to read up on how much of this was actually recorded in Jamaica. I had always thought this was recorded in London. Um, for those who don't know, I'm digressing here, but I've been asked before if you could see any show that you never saw, if you could go back in time and see somebody. Well, the Wailers were in England opening for Sly and the Family Stone. And they did four shows and then got fired because they were upstaging um, Sly. Rest in peace. So I've always thought if I could go back and see one of those Bob Marley, Sly Stone double bills in England at this time, that would be great. But when they were fired, they didn't have airfare home. They were stranded in London because they were counting on the revenue from the tour. And that's when Chris Blackwell intervened and said, well, while you're stranded in London, why don't you cut some sides? And anyway, they joined Island Records and became international stars when they hopped onto a label that was international rather than just the Jamaican record labels. So I love this album, the first Wailers album, big Bob Marley fan, and I am going to go with my two tracks. I could have picked a bunch of tracks, could have picked, but I'm going to go with Slave Driver, which is a deeply emotional song. Every time I hear the crack of the whip, it makes my blood run cold. But it's also a fun song, but the lyrics are very dark, but then the music is very bouncy and joyous. And then I'm going to go with the humorous song Kinky Reggae, even though it's talking about her brown sugar on having brown sugar on his booga wooga or whatever he's talking about in that song. It's kind of right. It's kind of a racy song, but the playing, if you just listen to the bass and the drums, and it's great. This is the bass player and the drummer were brothers, Aston Family Man Barrett, who passed away, and Carlton Barrett, and one of the finest rhythm sections in any genre, not just say in reggae. Uh, just a great rhythm section, great keyboards. Love this album.
Great album. Number seven for me is what many people believe is Elton John's absolute masterpiece. And I can't deny that, although personally I like Tumbleweed Connection more. But Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is a masterpiece of pop rock. And again, Cindy and I saw Elton John open the tour for this. So, you know, um, we we were hearing some of the songs for the first time. Um, and it has rock, it has pop, it has beautiful ballads, it has reggae or faux reggae, okay,
Mm,
um, within Jamaican jerk off. Um, but it's got every trick in the book by Elton. And it kind of laid the road, no pun intended, for what Elton was to continue doing later on, before he started basically just falling into a rut. It's got such a variety on this. Once again, a two record set. Wow, three two record sets in a row here. I feel bad that I can't choose one of the ballads like, Candle in the Wind, because it's a great song, but two songs need to be mentioned. First, my favorite Elton John rocker, Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. And I remember this is one of the songs, Gene, that we listened to in journalism class on the record player that you talked about. Okay. Um, and, when the album came out. Um, but the other one is the album that has endeared Elton to prog heads, for the last 50 years. So much so that Dream Theater even did a really brilliant cover of it. Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding. And is it prog? Kind of, kind of. I mean, everybody was kind of prog at the time, but I mean, it starts off with a great instrumental, Elton playing organ, and then Elton playing piano, and it starts off slow, then it really builds up, and it builds into a great rocker, Love Lies Bleeding. And
mhm.
so, I can't talk about this album without Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding, and Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting.
Yeah, great album. Wow. Yeah, good review. My number, am I on number seven?
Yes,
My number seven is, and what one, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road was your number what?
my number seven.
So my number seven is Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
Yes, we both got it at that. All right.
Okay. And I agree with you. Now, when I was doing this list, okay, we combine the subjective and the objective. I'm trying to be fairly objective. And I don't think this is a perfect album. It's my favorite Elton John album. But in going through this list, I have to admit the Tumbleweed Connection is a more consistent, solid album. There's not a bad track on Tumbleweed Connection. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I'm not a big fan of Jamaica Jerk Off. I'm not a huge fan of Dirty Little Girl, but it's a double album. I decided to throw in some subjectivity. So yeah, maybe it's a 9.7. Maybe it's not a perfect album, but boy, what's good on here is really good on here. It's almost perfect. And you know, there's songs I love at the end, like Roy Rogers and Harmony.
Mhm.
Harmony is a great song, even though it sounds like he's singing hominy. But
Hominy, yeah, like hominy
yeah,
grits.
yeah, exactly. So when I sing the song, I always sing hominy. But yeah, I think that's the closing track, and it's great. This is my favorite Elton John album, so I had to put it in my top 10. And yeah, I think there's a couple tracks on here that are less than perfect. But so what? It's 96% fantastic. And I love many of the deep tracks. So I decided to go for my two. I'm going with Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding, which is unmistakable. And then I decided to take one of my favorite deep tracks on here. For example, I really like the song I've Seen That Movie Too. But I'm going to go with the Ballad of Danny Bailey. How's that for a surprise choice? The piano on
Interesting.
here.
Yeah, yeah.
The piano is so catchy. Every time I listen to that piano riff that he does on here, yeah, I don't care about the lyrics. You know, they're about a gangster or a bad boy or whatever, and it's fine. But the piano, oh, mm, that piano is to die for. So I'm going to go with Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding, and the Ballad of Danny Bailey.
Hey, all right. All right. My number six is one of the most beloved songs in one of the most beloved albums in all rock and roll, and that is Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. And I love this album from beginning to end. It was the first album I got stoned to. Okay. Uh, I can admit that now. It's been 50 years. But and now whenever I listen to it, I still have flashbacks. Um, but uh, it's interesting because I just would like to point out that uh, the one time I was at Target, and there was a young couple. This was by the time I was a teacher, okay, and this young couple kind of reminded me of me and Cindy back when we were like that. They were arguing over which was the better band, Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin, and they said, "Hey, you're an old guy. Tell us who's better, Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin?" And I said, "Well, when I was your age, when I was in high school, it was Pink Floyd because I loved their spacey, weird, everything that they were." And the kid kind of smiles at the girl and says, "See, then what? Wait, wait, wait." I said, "As I've grown older, Pink Floyd has stayed about the same to me. Every time I listen to them, it's about the same. And yet, with every year that goes by, I love Led Zeppelin more. The blues based rock and roll that they did. And so I would have to choose Led Zeppelin." And she said, "See," and she punched him in the arm. But, anyway, Dark Side of the Moon. Um, it's a suite of songs that move into one another, and it's so hard to choose a single one. Of course, the single was Money, which is not my favorite track from there. But it is Time. Okay. Um, the song Time, which opens up with all kinds of, you hear clocks ticking and then go off. And great production by Alan Parsons on this album. Um,
Hmm.
and this is what made Alan Parsons' name, as a matter of fact. Um, the other song, I had to think, I was like, what else would I choose? There's at following time is the great gig in the sky with the orgasmic female vocals, but I chose a song written by Richard Wright, Us
Mm,
and Them, okay, by the keyboardist Richard Wright,
yeah,
Us and Them, with Dave Gilmour singing the vocals on it. It starts kind of slow with the us, us, and them, but then it builds into a big, almost classical crescendo, and it works really well as a alternate to time. So time and us and them from the dark side of the moon.
great picks. Yeah, great picks. The first time my cousin played Dark Side of the Moon for me, and he brought out a joint, and I'd never had one before. And I smoked it, and I did not get high. So I had to, so I don't know how to describe that, but I was supposed to get high when I first heard that album, but nothing happened. Maybe it was, maybe it was not very good stuff. I don't know, but I was, yeah, yeah, memories. Number six for me is Todd Rundgren, A Wizard, a True Star, which I think is my favorite Todd Rundgren album. I think this is my favorite, number one. It's kind of
It was a
close.
great album.
It is so demented and whacked out and weird and has that. And now I'm going to use the word compressed in a different definition. Compressed or claustrophobic production. It's Steven Wilson was talking about how the production on this album is terrible. I was watching he's a fan of the album, but he does not like the drums and the production. And I can understand that. It's a but it's just such a ride. You know, that's the thing. This is an album I like to listen to from start to finish. I usually do not interrupt it when I listen to it. And it just takes you on this psychedelic journey. But then it has moments of sheer beauty, like the Soul medley, which is very moving. The Curtis Mayfield and Smokey Robinson songs and all that. Get that Philadelphia soul in there. And then it's got stuff like Dogfight Giggle, which is just a bunch of tape noises. And yeah, it just takes you on a ride. And I think it's fun. I think it's a fun album. So I wanted to get the Soul medley on here as one of my two choices because I love it. But I thought, well, it is a cover. And I said, all right, well, let's go with a song from each side because the sides are kind of sweets. So for side one, I'm going to pick Zen Archer, which is a song that has increased in a lot of people are talking about this song now, actually. You see reactions to it on YouTube. Zen Archer has grown in esteem over the years, and it's a great song. It's about hunting a bird, sort of. And then on side two, where did I cut out?
Right when you were talking about the second song.
Okay, so I'll edit this. Sorry, my Zoom crashed. My second song is Sometimes I Don't Know What to Feel
Ah,
from the second side. And what I was talking about was if you ever have a chance to watch it, there's a program called Daryl's House,
yes,
which is
yes.
so Todd Rundgren and Daryl Hall did a live version of this song from Daryl's house. If you ever have a chance to watch it, it's really well done. They do a great job singing this song. Yeah, sometimes I don't know what to feel. I so relate to the lyrics of this song. He talks about today I saw a dog run over by a car and nobody stopped or whatever. And he's just talking about for all his spiritual songs, he also um, sometimes experienced a lot of pain with the world and would write about that. And I think this is a master class in a song that I so identify with. I that what he is articulating in this song is a way I feel and think on a frequent basis. So I've always identified with this song. So yeah, hopefully I can edit this. But yeah, my Zoom just crashed, so we're using that. So to the viewers, there'll be a splice in here, and sorry about that technology. So a wizard slash a true star. Zen Archer, sometimes I don't know what to feel.
Okay. Well, I'm just one ahead of you with that one, Gene. Todd Rundgren's The Wizard, a True Star is my number five. Cindy and I already had Todd, which was my first Todd Rundgren album, and then Something Anything. We had that and we were familiar with it. We were in high school. Cindy was sick. She stayed home from school. She wasn't feeling well. I went over to the record store that we regularly went to, Evolution Records, and I bought her A Wizard, a True Star, and I took it for her to listen to. And then then I talked to her on the phone. She said, "Jim, you've got to come back over here tonight. You've got to listen to this with me. It's so good." And I always remember listening to that with Cindy in her bedroom the first time. This was Todd's acid album. He was dropping a lot of acid during the time, and the entire first side is largely based on that. Now, um, I'm going to choose. It's so difficult to choose from the first side. You could choose the way Todd does it in concert. He normally does a little suite of the several first songs, but I'm going to go with one from the first side, and that is When the Shit Hits the Fan. Okay.
Mm,
Um, and then the other one is the closing track for the album, which is Just One Victory. And
hmm
what Cindy and I were really amazed by was, I mean, we were easily impressed back then with what could be done. But Todd is doing all the vocals. But at one point, he's singing somehow, someday, give us just one victory and we're on our way. And then, but along with that, he's in counterpoint to it. He's singing, hold that line, baby, hold that line, get up, boys, and hit him one more time. And it's great how he manages to pull it all together like that, because this is very much a Todd solo album. So Wizard of True Star with When the Shit Hits the Fan and Just One Victory.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, we were right, 6 and 5. My number five, I think you'd be pleased with this pick. I'm going with Roxy Music, but they released two albums this year. So which one am I going to put at number five? I'm going with For Your Pleasure at number five. Uh, what a great album. Uh, and it's really well recorded, I think. I think this is one of their best produced albums. I mean, I guess the audiophile album you would take into a store if you were going to buy a stereo. You would bring in, oh, I got a cat here, would be Avalon, I think, probably. This is Ruskin. Hi, Ruskin. Say hi to everybody.
Hi,
So,
Ruska.
Ruskin's a Scottish name because he kind of looks like a Scottish wildcat. I think he's missing his brother who's outside, but um, it's just ow. Oh man, he's sorry. I have a cat here who's clawing me, and I hope he didn't draw any blood there. But anyway, he's a great cat. I'm going with for my songs. I'm going with Beauty Queen, That might surprise you, but I love that song.
Beautiful song.
And Editions of You.
Great choice. Uh, my number four, David Bowie's Aladdin Sane. Um, when this album came out, some critics said that for a rock album, it was too messy and that, you know, uh, it was too cluttered, but they didn't get it. They just didn't get it. Um, and it's now one of my favorite Bowie albums, has been for quite a while. And my two favorite songs, I mean, there's so many good ones, but easy choices. The title track, Aladdin Sane, with Mike Garson on bizarre free jazz piano. And I love that I really like Mike Garson. I actually bought Cindy his album of David Bowie tracks that he did. Um, Mike Garson has played with David Bowie longer than any other musician, and on and off. Um, but he said that he had just joined the Spiders from Mars, and this was the first studio album that he was on. And he said that he played kind of a normal. Bowie said, "Make it jazzy," and he played kind of a normal jazzy thing. And Bowie said, "No, no, no, make it weirder, make it jazzier." So he made it weirder and jazzier. And Bowie said, "No, no, no, I want it weirder and jazzier still." And if you listen to it, it's chaotic. It's like, it's like the apocalypse. But that's what this album is about. It's a post-apocalyptic world. And so the title track, Aladdin Sane, and then the great pop song from it, and that is Drive-In Saturday with his name was always Buddy. And so those two songs together and there's so many others I could choose, but those two songs, Aladdin Sane and Drive-In Saturday.
Great picks. I got, if I pass out, I have cat scratch fever.
Hey, I got Gene. I could show you now, but they're just healing. When Wendell love bites me sometimes,
Yeah.
and Cindy and Kaylee always say, really got to wash that. You really got to wash that." No, I'm not going to wash my cat's love bites. They've never gotten infected, and I mean, I just they make me feel happy that he loves me so much that he bites me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Wendell's my
hope,
cat, by the way.
so I don't think I'm going to pass out, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can see there, but man, he got me good. So but yeah, they're love scratches. Number four for me, Roxy Music again. Okay. I can't decide which of these two albums I like better. I've always said Stranded is my favorite album, but in going through this project, I almost switched them. Uh, for Your Pleasure, I think it's a tie now. I'm just going to say it's a tie between For Your Pleasure, but I had to put one above the other. So I said, okay, I'll go with my old, long time claim that I like Stranded. Uh, yeah, I got them right here at right on the same position, and they're very different albums because Eno had left and Eddie Jobson came in, and Eddie Jobson's playing is just so different. There's organ and different things, and not well. Ferry might have played the organ, I'm not sure, but you have songs like Psalm. Psalm is so different for so unexpected. It's like a religious song, or maybe a little tongue in cheek, but it's yeah, it's a hymn. Who would have thought Roxy Music could do a hymn? Opens with Street Life, and it's got that really unusual production and keyboard work. Yeah, I love it. I think it's because Brian Ferry's singing is really good on this album, and his lyrics are pretty interesting on this album also. The two songs I'm going with, it was tough, but I'm going to go with A Song for Europe and Mother of Pearl, which are consecutive tracks on the album.
All right. My number three, Roxy Music, For Your Pleasure. Okay. Now, I agree. It's a fantastic album. And I was kind of feeling guilty that I chose two albums by the same artist for my top 10. But I said, I have to because they're not similar to one another. It's not like, oh, two Gordon Lightfoot albums. Gordon Lightfoot's wonderful, but two Gordon Lightfoot albums, which are almost interchangeable. For Your Pleasure and Stranded are not interchangeable. Okay. And For Your Pleasure is like the first Roxy Music album bumped up to a higher level. This is the album that is what could have been if Brian Ferry's jealousy had not caused him to fire Eno from the band. And it's because Eno was doing a couple things. He was more flamboyant than Brian Ferry was, but he also, every single instrument went through his console. And Phil Manzanera, the guitarist, found it funny because he said I could be playing something, and then all of a sudden, from the PA, I would hear a 5 second delay on what I had played, and I'd have to be careful not to get confused. Well, the rest of the band seemed to like it. Ferry didn't like hearing his voice coming out later after he had, I mean, Ferry, he was in charge of the band. It was his band. So he said, either Eno goes or I go. And Eno said, fine, screw it. I'm tired of it now. I'll go do something else. And he went on to a great solo career. But this album is the best of both of them. And when you chose Editions of You, that's a great song also. But I chose another rocker, kind of like Remake Remodel from the first one, Do the Strand, which Brian Ferry is the Strand. Of course, if you're at all familiar with London, the Strand is the main street that runs parallel to the the Thames River, just about half a mile north of the Thames, and you can go there and walk several miles along the Strand, and they have all kinds of shops there. Haley broke her glasses, so as we went along the Strand, and Kaylee went into a glasses shop, and they fixed her glasses right there while she was there. And so I was like, "I got my glasses fixed in London." But and then there was also a Doctor Who shop there. They have every kind of shop, and that's but so Ferry makes the Strand into a dance. Do the Strand, love, and he has all these great jokes about it. And so it's a great, amusing rocker. Do the Strand. Opening track, closing track.
The Bogus
For your
Man?
play,
Oh, for
for
your
your play.
pleasure.
And it's a creepy, weird vocal from Brian Ferry at first. And it goes on for a while, and it's so cool, and it's appealing, but it's creepy also. And then when Ferry sings, "Oh man, through every step, a change. You watch me walk away." Hurrah. Tara is a Northern English way of saying bye. Okay. Tara. And so then it goes into the Tara. Then Eno comes in full blown, making all kinds of weird sounds underneath Brian Ferry repeating Tara, Tara. And then here's what's a really cool thing. I don't know if you know this or not, Gene, but you know how at the end, as it's about to fade out, you hear a woman say, "You don't ask why." You know who that is?
No.
It's Dame Judy Dench, a
Oh,
young
that's
game.
right. I did read that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She came into the studio and did that. And I don't
Sounds
know, maybe Brian Ferry was having sex with her because he had sex with a lot of people back then. Or maybe Eno was having sex with her, or maybe they both were. Maybe they were a threesome. Now there's an idea: Judi Dench, Brian Ferry, and Eno all kind of doing it together. But it's
not
a
Ferry
great
and
song.
Eno, not Ferry and Eno.
Ferry and Eno with Judi Dench in between. They make a Judi Dench sandwich.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You're terrible.
Okay.
Oh,
So anyway,
we're just having fun for the viewers.
yeah,
We're just kidding around. Take it
just never.
easy.
I just never grew up personally.
Okay.
Um, Sometimes my students would say to me, Mr. Bloom, you have no filters. I said, yes, that's right. I have no filters, but you love me. Because you love me, your parents love me. So I'm not going to get in trouble with the administration. That was my secret, by the way. That was my secret that I could get away with. I mean, I could be the teacher who dropped the F bomb on a regular basis. No, I mean, not like 12 times an hour, but I mean regularly. And I never got in trouble over it because my students love me. And that's the secret. If you're a teacher, if you're still a teacher, if your students love you, they're not going to complain about you. And if they don't complain about you, your parents aren't going to complain to administration. And your parent and the administration will think that you're the greatest thing since sliced beer and canned bread.
Sliced beer and canned
Yeah.
bread. Oh, that's great. All right. So Stranded, you're number three.
That was my number. Uh, uh, no, for your pleasure.
Or for
It
your
was
pleasure, number
for your
three.
pleasure.
So my number three, which I expect to be on your list, is Genesis Selling England by the Pound. Second favorite Genesis album, but almost really tied for first. I love Selling England by the Pound. So last last year when we were doing 72, Foxtrot was only an honorable mention, but now we're in the top five. This is the Genesis I really like. The playing is terrific. The band is really, here's a band you listen to from Genesis to Revelation. They kind of sound like a bunch of kids. And then Trespass, which has some great things on it, like The Knife, is still a little rough, a little uneven. And today, they don't give a band five albums like this. They just don't. If you don't make it in two albums, you're out. Well, thank God that didn't happen with Genesis because they just get better with every album through the Gabriel period. And the playing on here is terrific. Banks keyboards and Rutherford's bass and Collins drumming and Hackett's guitar. These guys are so good, and Gabriel's flute and singing. It's the band is just really firing on all cylinders, and the compositions are much better, I think. My least favorite track might be, is it the Battle of Epping Forest? Is that where he does all the different Cockney voices? And
Yeah, yeah, I love
well,
that song.
yeah, I love it too. But that might be my least favorite. But it's it's a great album. The musicianship is just through the roof. Um, yeah, and there's grand piano and synthesizers and organ and all these different things that just blend together. To me, this is one of the best prog rock albums. So I'm going to go with a couple obvious choices. I don't think these will surprise you. You got to go with Firth the Fifth because of Hackett's guitar solo. That song, by the way, has kind of gone viral on YouTube. A lot of people are doing reactions to Firth the Fifth. And then for my other track, well, yeah, Firth the Fifth, let's talk about for a second. It's got that great piano from Tony Banks, and then one of the best guitar solos ever, Steve Hackett. It's phenomenal. Um, it's interesting too, there's been some information that came out when Eddie Van Halen, I guess, during an interview, said that he lifted his tapping style from Steve Hackett.
Yes.
So that's interesting to me to draw a line between Steve Hackett and Eddie Van Halen. But when you listen to Firth the Fifth, my point is you can hear a little bit of that tapping that he does, and you go, okay, I get it. I get the connection there. And my other song is the Cinema Show.
Mm-hmm.
Really like this piece. And that's a piece too that it's interesting. The Cinema Show, when Gabriel left the band, if you listen to the live album Seconds Out, Collins kind of took that song over and decided he could do just as well with it. And it's I kind of like I kind of like both versions. I kind of like when Collins sings that song too. So I think it just proves how good of a song it is that Gabriel left the band and Cinema Show was still, no pun intended, but a showstopper in their live concerts because they did the Cinema Show frequently in concert. Fourth the Fifth, the Cinema Show, number three.
Great. All right. So we're kind of like moving along here. And my next one, my number two, is Roxy Music Stranded, my favorite Roxy Music album. Um, a different album, but guess whose favorite? Who other? I mean, it's your favorite, Gene. It's also Eno's favorite. It's Eno's favorite Roxy Music album. He has said many times in interviews, I didn't have to be worried about all the shit going on in that band. And so I was able to listen to it objectively. And it sounds so good and it still sounds fresh. And I agree. It does. It does. Um, and so, um, what did you say your two favorites were?
Song for Europe and Mother of Pearl.
Right. Okay. Those are mine also. So
Okay.
since I rated it higher, I get to choose one other one, and I will choose the um, Phil Manzanera instrumental. I mean, not instrumental, but he wrote the music, Amazona.
Okay.
Um, and Song for Europe, by the way, the music was written by Andy Mackay. Um, so Song for Europe and Mother of Pearl, with the third one being Amazona. And God, this is a good album. This is the album that ultimately um, Cindy, I was wrong about saying it was the first album. It was Mother of Pearl that I was playing and that Cindy fell in love with Brian Ferry's voice on. And
Okay.
the other thing I like about Mother of Pearl is that you listen 1 year later, you hear David Bowie using Mother of Pearl on Candidate, Sweet Thing Candidate.
Mm.
He's very influenced by it. But I love how Mother of Pearl is almost two songs. It starts with Brian Ferry singing two parts, like turn the lights way down low, turn up the music high as it'll go. It's a crazy scene. Woo! And then it moves into this
Yeah.
hypnotic type of song, and it's about Ferry's attraction to fashion models. He had this thing for models. He's known to have basically, until Avalon, made love to every model on the cover of a Roxy Music album, and he's singing, about a girl who's a model and how she's sort of plastic in some ways and sort of fake, but he's so attracted to that plastic fakeness. Career girl cover, confused, and another slips right into you, but you are my favorita. And it has some great lyrics to it. And when he says, through throwaway kisses, you hear the
Hmm.
boomerang hisses. Great song. And so Amazona, I mean, Song for Europe, Mother of Pearl, and Amazona.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we're both huge Roxy Music fans, and I owe it to you because you first introduced me to them. But yeah, they've grown over the years, and they keep climbing as a favorite band for me. Because 25 years ago, I would have been a bigger Jethro Tull fan than Roxy Music fan. I'm going through this list, and Roxy keeps performing better on my picks than Toll. So it's interesting. I think it's just change in taste over the years. Number two for me, Dark Side of the Moon. Objectively, what can you say? Here's an album I know frontwards and backwards, um, but I still enjoy it when I listen to it. It's a masterpiece. I'm glad you mentioned Alan Parsons because it's such a brilliant production, and everybody knows this album. I guess it'd be hard pressed to find someone who hasn't heard it. So there's not a lot I want to really say about it. Uh, but I don't. I think maybe Pink Floyd doesn't get enough credit for their lyrics because the song "Time," which is one of my picks, um, another year older and closer to death, and Time has phenomenal existential lyrics. I I don't think I don't think they get enough credit as lyricists. So you were talking about Joni Mitchell earlier. She's in the stratosphere. But Pink Floyd, these guys do a pretty admirable job with words. And I like that. And my other pick is Great Gig in the Sky because that vocal performance still sends chills up my spine. What she did, was it Doreen Chanter? I'm trying to think who did that.
I can't remember,
I
but
always get I always get the person's name mixed up in my head, but it's a wordless vocal. It goes perfectly after Time. Those two segue right into each other. And I think it's just one of the most phenomenal gospel inspired vocals, wordless. Yeah, I think this album is actually genius. I don't use that word very often. I, because the more you use the word genius, the less it means, right?
mhm.
So I want to reserve it for something that I think is. And this concept album from start to finish is just I've always thought it was pure genius and the production was genius. It's a great album. Dark Side of the Moon number two, Time, Great Gig in the Sky.
Claire Torrey was her name.
That's right. Tori.
All right. Well, my number one, of course, is my absolute favorite Genesis album, but damn, it's a close tie, and it is "Selling England" by the Pound. Um, the previous two Genesis studio albums didn't have the quality of production that Selling England did. John Burns did a fantastic job with this, and he tied the whole album together. But here's something that some of you who may know or you may not. Remember I was an English teacher. You mentioned um, the the cinema show, which is directly based on um, a section of T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, where you have this young man carbuncular coming to date the secretary who's cleaning up her place, and he and basically he wants to have sex with her. Now, am I stretching the in the wasteland in a game of chess, the middle section? Um, you move out into a being that is viewing what's going on, and it's Tiresias. I, Tiresias, have foresuffered all and endured upon this divan or bed. Take a little trip back with Father Tiresias. Listen to the old one speak of all he has lived through. I
Mm.
have crossed between the poles. For me, there's no mystery. Once a man, like the sea, I raged. Once a woman, like the earth, I gave. But there is, in fact, more earth than sea. And that's why T.S. Eliot uses him, because Tiresias understands both men and women, having once been a man, then a woman, and then a man again in mythology. Look it up. Um, but so it's based on a section of the wasteland. But guess what? So is the entire album. Peter Gabriel was created a concept album loosely based on T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. Battle of Epping Forest is the least, but you know, Firth of Fifth, you have the Death by Water, and the opening track, Dancing with the Moonlit Night. Um, you have there's a fat old lady outside the saloon laying out her credit cards. She plays fortune. She's and she's laying out these tarot cards, and that's Madame Sosostris in the first part of the Wasteland. And it says, "Old Father Thames, it seems he's drowned." So you've got C.S. Eliot's The Wasteland being inspiring um, Peter Gabriel for lyrics the same way that what the same way that Supper's Ready was inspired by the Bible. Okay, so what are my two favorite tracks? Well, obviously one of them is the Cinema Show, which goes into a really cool 7/8 time signature for the later part of it, and then the opening track, which is uh, Dancing with the Moonlit Night. Um, and so Dancing with the Moonlit Night. And if I were to choose a third one, it would be the the hit single um, written written musically by Steve Hackett. I know what I like in your wardrobe.
Wow.
That's
Selling it, and you've loved this album for a long time since you first
I
heard it
really have. Yes, I
back in the
have.
day. So my number one is an album that, like Exile on Main Street that we talked about last year, was your number 10, was my number one. Kind of similar. This is where I have Quadrophenia.
Okay,
I don't know if you knew how much I love this album.
not
And a
surprised.
double, and a double. But I also think this album is genius. I don't even hardly know where to begin. Townsend was just so, yeah, I was reading up on it again this week, and it was hard for him to pull everybody together because Daltrey was making a solo album, Entwistle was making a solo album, Keith Moon was in the movies. And he finally got them together. There was a studio they were trying to build. It was delayed. So they used Ronnie Lane's mobile studio, and somehow they pulled this thing together. It's a very linear story. Uh, Tommy, which I find to be brilliant now, took a lot of work to understand that album. But this album here is a little bit more immediate. And it's a great idea, just referencing the history of The Who and the history of the band. You mentioned that there were four themes. Quadrophenia. I think it's always interesting. I could be wrong about this, but as I recall, in the 60s, everybody wore the same suits and the same haircuts.
Hmm.
So the Beatles were the Fab Four, and the Kinks all looked alike. And the Who were like the only band in the 60s, didn't give a shit about that. And they all looked different. And it was unusual. It was unusual at the time for a band to all dress differently and hold on to their unique personalities. So I've always viewed that idea of quadrophenia to also be a little bit of a nod to the fact that the Who were always presented as four separate personalities. I don't know. Townsend's just so high IQ. He's so smart. But then musically, you were talking about the themes. Right before Love Rain Army is an instrumental called The Rock, where he reintroduces the four themes, and then he plays the four themes all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And they work and they mesh.
They do, yes.
And yet they worked a lot of this stuff out in the studio. I mean, he had demos. His idea, I was reading about it and I've listened to his demos. He's got the song ideas down, but the band comes in and they put in the flourishes and the polish. Everybody's brilliant on here. People talk about the bass on The Real Me, those timpanis on Love Rain Army, and yeah, all the horn parts that Entwistle did. They're great. But there's a lot of emotion in here. Songs like I've Had Enough, which by the way has banjo in it. I've Had Enough, which is kind of a suicidal song. And I don't know, I just so relate and identify with these songs, even though I'm not British, even though I was never a mod, there's still something that resonates in here. Really hard to pick a track. I mentioned I've Had Enough, great song. This Drowned is a great song. But I'm going to go with 515 um, and Love Rain Army.
Great choices. Okay, so honorable mentions. First, the Paul McCartney album that John Lennon actually admitted to liking, Band on the Run.
Mm.
Okay. And it is a fantastic album. It's possibly McCartney's best album. It's certainly one of his best. Next, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Brain Salad Surgery. Not without some minor flaws, but God, it's explosive. It is bombastic. And Carnival 9 was so big it wouldn't fit on one side. Um, so they took um, first impression, broke it into two parts over the first side and second side. Then second impression, which is basically a Keith Emerson piano thing, and then the space opera of third impression. And does first impression and third impression tie together? No, I don't think they do. They're just, but musically, yes, but not lyrically. And it's interesting because in 1973, Emerson, Lake and Palmer with Pete Sinfield adding lyrics dealt with a theme that many science fiction shows have dealt with ever since, and that is AI taking control and ruling, and not ruling, but rebelling against the people that are flying. Then we've got Led Zeppelin, Houses of the Holy, great album, but not quite as good as the album before and the album after. Um, and an album that got me in trouble with Facebook because when I was putting my favorite albums from 1973, I posted the cover and they threatened to ban me from Facebook because it had little kids' naked butts on it, which is really funny because it's not even real. It's, artwork. But,
Mhm.
you know, so then I was telling people about it. So I took it and I put smiley faces over all the butts and they hit me again.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay. And then Cat Stevens foray into Prague, Foreigner, four great songs. Lorna, hush. Four great songs on one side, on the second side. But the first side is a side long epic Prague suite, the Foreigner suite. And
Mhm.
it's jazzy, it's changing in time signatures constantly, and it's one of the best things that Cat Stevens ever wrote. And so there's that. And then the first Eno album after quitting Roxy Music, a concept album about urination. Here come the warm jets. And if you don't believe me, listen to the title track at the end. He says, "We're all on our own and there's no place to pee."
So you had
He
five
also,
honorable. Oh, you're
yeah,
still going, right?
no, no, Paul McCartney, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Led Zeppelin, Cat Stevens, and Eno.
So, wow, yeah, those are so interesting. And I've got, I'm cheating here. I've got eight honorable mentions, but I think it was that good of a year. I just can't help it. There's eight albums I wanted to get on my top 10, so I'll try to go through them quickly. They're not in any particular order except possibly this next one, this would probably be my number 11. You know, you made a comment in uh in the 71 video we did, I think, where I was talking about how much I identify with Iggy Pop, and you were saying how much you identify with Lou Reed. But I also identify with Lou Reed a lot, and I like Berlin. It's a dark album, but I like Berlin, and I really tried to get it into my top 10. It really shows the stamp of Bob Ezrin.
Very
Uh,
much.
this is it's a phenomenal album. I actually like every single song on the album, and I wish I could have got it on. It's not easy listening, but I like Lou Reed's Berlin.
An album about two speed freaks abusing one another in Germany.
Yeah, that's about right. Um, Ezrin also had a lot to do with just the album even happening. He says, you never, Ezrin said, Lou, you never finish your, your songs. And he goes, what do you mean I never finish my songs? He said, well, you never finished the stories. You had all these great songs on your first album, like Berlin. Whatever happened to such and such, and so Ezrin actually planted the idea for the album, and Lou Reed wrote it. Next on my list is a band I love, but I couldn't quite get him on here. And I didn't hear you mention this album. I'm really surprised that this didn't make your honorable mention. But I have King Crimson, Lark's Tongue, and Aspic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great album. This is the only one with Jamie Muir on it, so I think of it as the Jamie Muir album. And the bookends of the actual title track are just incredible and fantastic. But I don't think it's quite a 10.0 album, so I bumped it to honorable mentions. Next on my list is Paul Simon. There goes Ryman Simon. Has songs I love and lyrics I love. When something goes wrong, I'm the first to admit it. I'm the first to admit it, but the last one to know. That's so Paul Simon. I love it. Ryman Simon, my second favorite Paul Simon album. Here's Stevie Wonder again. Inner Visions, great album. Uh, Heaven is 10 zillion light years away. Really good album, but didn't make it. Houses of the Holy, Led Zeppelin. Yeah, it's got the crunge on it. The crunge? Did I say that right?
Yeah,
That doesn't
yeah.
sound right. But anyway, but Led Zeppelin Houses of the Holy, still a great album. Graham Parsons, GP, great country album. And Emmylou Harris is wonderful on here. I have the other Wailers album. I mentioned how much I like Burnin'. Burnin' has I Shot the Sheriff on it, and a couple really good Peter Tosh tracks. And then they re-record some of their older songs like Small Axe and do a really good job. You are the big tree, we are the small axe. Boy, that song is dated well.
And the
Nice
pun,
protest
because
song.
you realize the pun on that, right? The big tree. The there were three major labels in Jamaica. They were called the Big Three,
Oh,
and
I
they treated their artists poorly. So you are the big tree, we are the small axe to cut you down.
yeah. It's a great album. And then finally, my last honorable mention is Bruce Springsteen's The Wild, the Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle. You talked about it at length. It's got some great stuff on it. I I love this album. I do think Bruce Springsteen would get better, but I still love this album. It's it's pretty damn good for a sophomore album, right? No sophomore slump. I think it's a
Absolutely.
step up from the first album. So yeah, eight honorable mentions, but when you listen to that list, Lou Reed, King Crimson, Paul Simon, Stevie Wonder, Led Zeppelin, Graham Parsons, The Wailers, Bruce Springsteen, it's eight pretty damn good albums, in my opinion.
Regarding Houses of the Holy, I didn't mention any songs, but I would like to really, since it was one of my honorable mentions, I'd like to mention one song that I just absolutely love, and that's the Rain song.
Uh, yeah, it'd be nice to add to our playlist, but our playlists are about 35 songs,
Right.
33, 34, 35 songs, and I think that's enough.
Well,
But
especially with some of them being prog songs that take quite a while.
yeah, did you
But
put
they're
Plague
worth every
Lighthouse Keepers on one of your? So yeah, with the yes and the prog rock. So well, that's it. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I think my surprises were more just with positioning, uh, finding out how much you like certain albums. So you had Genesis at number one. I had The Who at number one. They're both great albums. We both love them. So thank you for joining me on this series.
My
And
pleasure, and I'll see you when we get to 1974.
yeah, I'm looking
And I
forward
look
to it. I've already got it. And how many honorable mentions do I have for 74? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I have nine.
Oh, I got you beat. I got 20. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I could have
It was
20.
just it was just a great year. So for you, those of you still hanging on, watching the channel, we encourage you to engage Patreon, Facebook, Instagram, or just make a comment or hit the like button. We really appreciate it. And thank you again for joining me. And as we say here, and yeah, it's really great having you on here, Jim. And as we say here in Bonita, Mexico, buen dia. And
Gene, I always like playing with you.
okay, well, bye, everybody.
See you later.